Hello, my name is Ethan. I'm 17 years old. On March 14th, I died on Route 9 outside Youngstown, Ohio. I want you to know who I was. Not the version people saw at school, walking the halls with my head down, saying, "I'm fine," before anyone even asked. The real me. The one who lived inside a house where you learned to read a room before you even opened the door. I lived with my mom, Denise, and my dad, Dale, in a small rented house on the edge of town. My dad worked shifts at the scrapyard, and most nights he came home smelling like beer before he even sat down. I don't remember exactly when I learned to listen for his truck in the driveway. I just know that by the time I was 7, I already knew the difference between the sound of him being tired and the sound of him being angry. Tired meant I could relax a little. Angry meant get small, get quiet, get out of the way. My dad hit me. I don't like saying it plainly like that, but it's true, so I'm going to say it. Shoves into the counter. A hand across the face when dinner was late or a glass got knocked over. Nights he locked the door, cool off outside, and told me to cool off outside when I was 8 years old, standing in the cold in just a t-shirt, watching my breath in the porch light. My mom loved me. I believe that. But love in our house had a rule attached to it. Don't make it worse. Just keep your head down, Ethan, she'd whisper after. You know how he gets. She never hit me. But her silence built a wall too, brick by brick, until I stopped expecting anyone to open the door for me. My older brother Cody left for the army the day he turned 18. I was 11. I remember standing in the driveway watching his car pull away, and part of me was happy for him, and part of me felt like I'd just watched the last lifeboat leave without me. He calls sometimes now, but not much. I think leaving is easier when you don't look back too hard. So I learned to disappear. That's the best way I can explain it. At school, I was the quiet kid, the one teachers forgot to call on, the one who ate lunch fast and alone, so nobody would ask questions. I never brought friends home, never once, not in my whole life, because I couldn't risk anyone seeing what home actually looked like. There was a teacher, Mrs. Patterson, my guidance counselor. One time in 10th grade, she noticed a bruise on my arm and asked, real gentle, if everything was okay at home. I told her I fell off my bike. I even laughed a little when I said it. It was nothing. I walked out of her office, feeling like I'd just barely escaped something. But I couldn't have told you what. I want to be honest with you about something else, too. Somewhere along the way, I started believing it was my fault. Not all at once. It built up slow, like water finding a crack. I kept a kind of list in my head, reasons it's not that bad. He works hard. He's stressed. Other kids have it worse. I got good at talking myself out of the truth before anyone else even had the chance to hear it. I used to flinch at loud voices, even at school, even when nobody was mad at me. I hated that about myself. I used to imagine the day I'd turn 18 and just drive away and never look back, the way Cody did. I had the whole speech planned in my head, the one I'd give if anyone ever asked me why I left. I never got to give that speech. On the night of March 14th, it was raining hard, one of those Ohio spring storms that comes in sideways. I'd knocked over a drink at dinner, just a drink, just water, and my dad shoved me so hard into the kitchen counter that I saw white for a second. My mom said his name, quiet, the way she always did, the way that never actually stopped anything. I didn't think. I just grabbed the keys off the hook by the door, Cody's old truck keys, the one thing he'd left behind when he went to basic training, and I walked out into the rain. I got in that truck and I drove, not toward anywhere, just away. My hands were shaking on the wheel, and I couldn't tell if it was from the cold or from crying. And honestly, I don't think it mattered which. I just needed to be anywhere that wasn't that kitchen. I didn't know that drive was the last thing I'd ever do, as the boy who was still learning how to hide. The road was slick, and I was going faster than I should have, and I wasn't really watching the way I should have either. I remember the headlights of the truck lighting up sheets of rain, and then the back end of the truck sliding, and then nothing made sense for a second. Just spinning, and metal, and a sound I still don't have words for. Then everything went quiet. Not silent quiet, a different kind of quiet, a different tint of quiet, like someone had turned the volume down on the whole world. I remember feeling my body hit something hard, and then, strange as this sounds, I remember not being afraid of the pain, because somehow the pain didn't quite reach me anymore. It was like watching it happen to someone else through a window. And then I was floating. I know how that sounds. I wouldn't have believed it either before. But I was above the truck, looking down at the wreck in the ditch, rain still falling, and for a second I felt this jolt of panic. That's me. That's body down there. And then, just as fast, the panic let go of me, like hands unclenching. I felt light, lighter than I think I've ever felt in my whole life, like I'd been carrying something heavy for so long that I'd forgotten it was even there, and now it was just gone. I don't know how long I was in that in-between place. Time didn't work the way it does here. But I remember moving, not walking, more like being carried by something gentle, through a kind of soft darkness that wasn't scary at all. It felt more like being tucked in than being lost. And then, slowly, there was light. Warm light, gold like late afternoon sun, and it kept getting brighter and closer until I realized I wasn't just seeing it. I was inside it. I found myself standing in a kitchen, a small farmhouse kitchen, with bread cooling somewhere close by and a fire crackling, though I couldn't see where. Sunlight lay flat and gold across worn wooden floorboards. There was no door I needed to listen for, no sound of a truck pulling into a driveway, just stillness, the kind of stillness I don't think I'd ever actually felt before in my whole life. And there, sitting at the table like he'd been waiting for me, was Jesus. I want to try to describe him, but I don't think I can do it justice. His sleeves were rolled up, his hands were resting flat on the table, out in the open, scars visible right there on his palms, nothing hidden. And his eyes looked right at me, steady, unafraid, like he wasn't going anywhere and wasn't going to make me explain myself first. Every part of me wanted to flinch. 17 years of training told me to brace, to get small, to read the room before I trusted it. But something about the way he sat there, still and open, made the bracing feel unnecessary, like my body finally understood there was nothing coming. "You don't have to brace for me, Ethan," he said. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. "I'm not going to move." And that was it. That was the thing that broke me open. I don't know how else to explain what happened next, except to say I cried the way. I never let myself cry at home. Not once, not even in my room with the door shut, because crying at home meant being loud, and being loud meant being seen, and being seen was never safe. But here, it was safe. Here, I could fall apart completely, and nothing bad happened. Nobody told me to keep it down, nobody left the room. I just cried, and Jesus stayed exactly where he was, hands open on the table, letting me. For the first time in my whole life, I didn't feel like I had to earn being okay. I didn't have to explain the bruise. I didn't have to have a story ready. I could just be a scared kid who'd finally stopped running, sitting in a warm kitchen, being looked at by someone who wasn't going to hurt me. It felt like coming home to a home I never actually had. And somehow, impossibly, it felt exactly like home should. After a while, I don't know how long, time really did feel different there. Jesus stood up and walked around the table, and he sat in the chair right next to mine, next to him, instead of across from me. Like he wanted to see the same direction I was looking, not just look at me. "I want to show you something," he said. "Not to hurt you, so you can finally understand it." The kitchen walls seemed to shift, soften, turn almost like glass, and suddenly I wasn't just looking at wood and firelight anymore. I was looking into another kitchen, another time, and there was my dad. Except he wasn't my dad. He was a boy, maybe 9 years old, standing in a doorway with his arms up, flinching, while a man twice his size raised a hand at him. I felt sick watching it, and then I felt something I didn't expect at all. Grief, not for me, for him. "This didn't start with you, Ethan," Jesus said quietly, "and it wasn't caused by you." He let that sit in the air for a second before he kept going. "Your father learned exactly what you learned, in the exact same kind of kitchen, from the exact same kind of fear. He was taught, the same way you were taught, that love and fear come from the same hand. Nobody healed that wound in him. So, he carried it. And carrying a wound that never closes doesn't make it disappear. It just means somebody else ends up standing where he once stood." I remember asking him, my voice barely working, "So it's not his fault?" "It is his fault," Jesus said, and there was no anger in his voice, just a kind of sad, steady honesty. "What he did to you was wrong, Ethan. Fully, completely wrong. I'm not asking you to pretend it wasn't. Understanding where his pain came from doesn't erase what he did with it. Two things are true at once. He is responsible for the choices he made with his wound, and that wound is real, and it started long before you were born. Then he showed me my mother, small too, watching her own mother stay silent the exact same way, learning the exact same lesson. That silence is what keeps a family from falling apart, when really, silence is just what lets it keep breaking quietly instead of loudly. Pain that isn't healed doesn't stay in one house, Jesus said. It gets handed down, door to door, generation to generation, like a key nobody actually wants, but everybody keeps using because it's the only one they were ever given. That's the real sickness here, Ethan. Not just what your father did, but the silence around it. The silence is what lets it keep traveling." He turned toward me then, and I felt him really looking, not just at what happened to me, but at everything I'd hidden. "I want to show you something else," he said gently, and I saw it. Every moment I'd lied to protect the secret. Mrs. Patterson's office, the bruise, the lie about the bike. The nights I told myself I was fine so I wouldn't have to say I wasn't. The whole careful architecture I'd built out of silence, brick by brick, believing it was keeping me safe. "Silence feels like safety," Jesus said. "I understand why. But it's not safety, Ethan. It's just a smaller cage. You built it because you needed to survive, and I don't blame you for that. Surviving is not a sin, but you don't have to live in it anymore. I put people in your life on purpose, not by accident. Mrs. Patterson. Even a passing stranger who might have asked the right question at the right time. Every single time you said, 'I'm fine,' you closed a door I was holding open for you. I felt something crack open in my chest, something that had been sealed shut for years. Not shame this time. Relief. Like the truth finally had somewhere to go. I don't want to go back," I told him. I meant it more than I'd ever meant anything. "It's safe here. Nobody hurts me here. Please don't send me back to that house." Jesus didn't argue with me. He didn't tell me I was wrong to want to stay. He just took my hand. The first time he'd touched me, and held it the way you'd hold the hand of someone you genuinely didn't want to see go. "I know," he said, "and I'm not asking you to go back into silence. I'm asking you to go back and finally break it. Ethan, there are other kids right now, tonight, standing in kitchens just like yours, learning to read a room before they open the door. Some of them go to your school. Some of them sit 2 seats away from you and you've never once known it. Because they've learned exactly what you learned, to disappear. They need to know that someone made it out and told the truth. Not someone who pretended it never happened. Someone who actually said it out loud. I'm not brave," I said. "I've never told anyone the truth. Not once. Not really." "You don't have to already be brave," he said. "You just have to be honest, one time, with one person who can help. That's where courage starts. Not with a speech. With a sentence." I sat with that for a long time. I thought about my mom and how tired she looked, and how maybe her silence wasn't just weakness. Maybe it was its own kind of wound, too. I thought about my dad, 9 years old, in that doorway. I thought about Cody, and how leaving without looking back had cost him something too, even if it looked like freedom. And then I thought about some kid I'd never met, sitting 2 seats away from me at school, practicing their own version of, "I'm fine." "Okay," I told him, and my voice broke a little when I said it. "I'll go back." "You won't be doing it alone," Jesus said. I was never gone from that kitchen, Ethan. Not once. Not on the coldest night, on that porch. Not in Mrs. Patterson's office. Not in that truck in the rain. I was there every single time. I'm asking you to go back and tell the truth, so that other people can finally know that too. I woke up in the ICU at St. Elizabeth's 3 days later, and the first thing I felt wasn't relief. It was grief. A quiet, aching grief, because for a few days I'd been somewhere nothing could hurt me, and now I was back in a body that ached everywhere, in a world that still had locked doors and raised voices in it. But then I turned my head, and my mom was asleep in the chair beside my bed. She hadn't left. For the first time in years, I remember thinking she stayed close instead of looking away. I held on to what Jesus told me, the way you hold on to the only thing keeping you standing. And slowly, I started living it. The first thing I did was tell Mrs. Patterson the truth. All of it. No bike story this time. My hands were shaking the whole time I talked, but I got every sentence out. A caseworker got involved. My dad was ordered by the court to complete anger and addiction program before I'd agree to live under the same roof as him again. And I meant that boundary, even though part of me still ached for the dad I wished I'd had. I moved in with my aunt for a while, not because I stopped loving my family, but because I finally understood that love and safety don't have to be the same address right away. My mom started her own counseling too. We're rebuilding something slower and more honest than what we had before. And honestly, that feels more real than pretending everything's fixed. I called Cody. I told him the truth about what stayed behind in that house after he left. Not to blame him, just so the silence between us could finally end too. We talk more now. Real talks, not just check-ins. At school, I started something small, just a quiet group that meets on Thursdays. For kids, dealing with things at home they've never said out loud. We call it the open door. Most weeks, it's just a handful of us, sitting in a circle, learning that saying the truth doesn't make you disappear, it makes you real. I used to believe love and fear came from the same hand. I don't believe that anymore. I know the difference now, because I finally met love that didn't require me to brace for it. If you're reading this, and you know what it's like to listen for footsteps before you know if it's safe to breathe, I want you to hear this be the way I heard it in that kitchen. It was never your fault, and silence was never actually keeping you safe. There is a door being held open for you too, by someone who has never once looked away. My name is Ethan. I'm 17 years old. On March 14th, I died on a rainy road outside Youngstown, Ohio, running from a house I finally had to stop lying about. And I came back with one sentence worth saying out loud. Tell someone. That's where it starts. That's where healing begins.